FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise. Hi everyone, hi, this is Crystal and the FESIG team. Well, welcome to our 122nd meeting. We have had 2 sessions already. We just finished the first session, and then the second session. First session was with Dr. John Scott Perez, whom Kerry Cassidy brought into our platform here. Thank you. And the second session we just completed with Kerry Cassidy of Projectcamelot. And so now we're continuing into the third session that will be presenting a conversation between Kerry and Scott, and then a forum with the FESIG team. So I just wanted to flash on the screen very quickly for you to see the agenda, so that there's a bit of a continuity here. Right, FESIG is the platform where science meets spirituality, where we encourage scientists, researchers, inventors, and technologies to go within, to connect with the missing link, spirit, to solve the equation. We have our websites and, well, sorry, hang on a minute. Okay, so here we have our team here. Myself, FRES, Pontus, James sometimes is here, sometimes not. And then we have the rest of the team, the regulars who are at the R&D, and the regular members. The first session, we had John Scott Perez. You can actually pause on the video to read what had been presented. Second session, Kerry was speaking about the latest updates in disclosure intel. And then the third session, sorry, I didn't put it here, but we are having the third session like a forum here. And once we finish the third one, please pen down in your diary for our next meeting, which will be the 123rd FESIG meeting on the 3rd of April, 2024. And I want to announce, I must apologize because we had migrated to a new server, a secure server with HTTPS. So it's https://truevisionpeace.com/FESIG.html. And in the migration process, I'm afraid I've lost 2 years of the emails that were sent to me to crystal@truevisionpeace.com accidentally was deleted. So if I hadn't replied to your old emails that you sent to me, many apologies. Please write to me again if it's urgent and I need to look into it. Please excuse us for that. You can now always write in again, okay? To retrieve all the video recordings, and because it's a learning platform where everyone's welcome to come in and form study groups and learn. Study groups can be formed through our Telegram channel, FESIG_group. Okay, please join our channel so you won't be lost learning all this knowledge and truth and intel from some of the most brilliant minds on the planet. Thank you. So, right, I'm going to quickly, well, I've introduced Kerry and Scott earlier, so I won't say much more. I think we just jump into the conversation now, shall we? Because this time is so precious, and keeping Scott here for so long and Kerry is not really quite fair because they're very busy people. So Dr. John Scott Perez, would you hop in with your microphone, and Kerry? And can we have, those who are doing the recordings, can we have the view of the sort of like speakers gallery, like 2 people now, Kerry and Scott, if it's possible to have that on the screen for the recording. So now we have 2 speakers interacting with each other. Kerry, would you take up the microphone? And I would like to thank you for helping me get Scott on this platform. You and Scott were talking very animatedly about technologies, about Antarctica. If I may start ball rolling for the conversation, conversation thread. Okay, Antarctica is where you see spacecrafts coming out from. So it's connected to Hollow Earth as well. And I presume that some of the SSP advanced technologies were hidden there. And they just don't want us to see it because they don't want it known. So, Scott, could you say something about that with Kerry? You were having very animated conversations in your videos. You can continue here.
Sure. So I find it interesting in that if you look at either the tablets, okay, which are much older than religious texts, but then you look at religious texts and you see things in particular through the passage that was cited by the same Ronald Reagan team, Job 38. You talk about ice and water and these other things. And so in this region, you have a tremendous amount of ice. And there are questions, and you notice that one of the things that you have going on there is a tremendous amount of geological surveys. You have instruments there, you have things that have been built, okay, and what's under the ice, or you have limited because of where it is, because of the restrictions of getting there, right? We have limited things. You have things that are photographs that came off those ships that Admiral Byrd took down there. You have limited information about what was going on there. Why was Hitler in San Carlos de Bariloche, where he flew? We have all the U-boat stuff, and there are a lot of questions, all right, surrounding the area. For me, I want to know more about the geographical area underneath the ice. What's there? What are the resources? I've seen, as a lot of people have seen, the visuals of craft coming in and out of that portion because the way the electromagnetism of the Earth is, it's supposed to be easier for them. So I've seen the pictures, of course, we all have from the two fleets that went down with Admiral Byrd. There's a lot of questions there. So I want to understand what life, I want to understand what's suspended in animation in the ice that was once alive, because you pull animals out like these huge, what do they call them? They're like elephants. They're in the ice, but some people claim to see craft in the ice. What else is in the ice? What else is there? Really there besides the penguins. And so there's questions about beings living there. Are they human? For me, I'm with the same thing with Juan. I want their DNA. So, get me their DNA and then I want to sequence it. These people that are cloned, I want their DNA and I want to go sequence it. And I want to, expose them that way if possible too. But I'm bad with that. So, just over here at the biotech convention with this people that make the equipment for all of the industries, I know that I could take, all I need is a coffee cup, really. And we can PCR replicate their chromosomes and then go run in the sequencer. And we can say with some very serious probabilities and accuracy, who and what this being is, relative to, not being the real Joe Biden or these other things, because it's obvious that there's a presence and it's not human. It should be very obvious. So I'm intrigued by what's going on there. I'd like to know more information myself.
Kerry?
I wonder what the remote viewers see, Kerry, but they don't share with us. Like,
well, they do.
Ed Reardon and, those people over there.
Some They are sharing some things. You know, again, you have to join to see their evidence, hear their evidence down at the Future Forecasting Group. And I'm not sure whether the Courtney Brown viewers have remote viewed Antarctica. I'd have to search their site and see. But some of those are, you know, like they give you excerpts. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's if you've been working for the government as a remote viewer, you have to be expert at what you do. Otherwise, they wouldn't hire you, would they? So
Yeah. Well, are they remote viewing us from there? And what technologies do they have? And also, you know, I've had this thing where I've had remote viewing on me and I've not seen visually, but I've heard the sounds of a man and a woman and they were remote viewing me. And I was sitting there and for me, when you feel that you have a man and a woman sitting in front of a whiteboard, remote viewing your consciousness, it's a game changer for you as a human being. Or once you realize the tablets and Leo and Inky and the other stuff, it's a game changer. But for me, I'm like, what privacy is there? There's no privacy. Not for humanity. I mean, there's as much privacy for a human as there is for, I guess, a rabbit or a dog or, you know, any animal in the wild. I feel that way. And I feel that strongly from a scientific and probability perspective, okay, and physics, that the creators of the DNA of not just humanity, humans, any being sitting here, they have advanced technologies where they can wirelessly or consciously communicate with you. I mean, I feel that way strongly just from, if I look at DNA code or I look at 35 computer codes created by humans, I look at the two things and I'm like, whoa, you know, why are we so worried about privacy when these beings over here that created us can see us from the ships or the craft, and maybe we can't even see them, you know, according to Will Tompkins. So I got past it myself, and then the guys or people that remote viewed the EBN from Area 51, right? And that being, and they said that being was being remote viewed, and finally it got so tired of being remote viewed, it put up a screensaver conscious image of nature to block its privacy, which I think is interesting, because I feel that is a learned thing. I feel that humans that are being remote viewed, I feel that they can do the same thing. I think they have the capacity. In fact, I believe it's a learned capacity. So it's intriguing.
Right. The two of you were talking in conversation about AI in each and every one of us anyway. I mean,
what I call the Borg. And in fact, the Borg has a legal name called Homo Borg Genesis that was termed a couple of years ago in a court case. So we know of it as, they actually used the Borg idea from Star Trek, in case you don't know that, but I'm sure everyone knows that. So the idea here being that the nanographene oxide spike protein package and luciferase that has been put into every human that got a vax, as well as the test. A lot of people don't realize the test contained the nanographene oxide and these other things. And so anyone who was tested during those years as well. And there is arguably what people call shedding, which is probably an inaccurate term from what I understand. According to a NASA scientist that disclosed information to me via another person, they say that the nanographene oxide jumps from person to person, thing to thing. Now, this was demonstrated very clearly years ago, and this is probably 20 years ago, by Michael Crichton, a sci-fi writer who was actually trained as a doctor. He became a doctor, but he decided to practice sci-fi instead and be an author. He did the Andromeda Strain. He also did Jurassic Park. I mean, the guy was prolific in terms of his sci-fi novels, if you've never read them, but especially Prey, it's called. I highly recommend to understand the possibilities behind what he considered to be the possibilities that he wrote into a novel type form of nanographene oxide, of nano, in any, maybe in any form, but specifically graphene oxide, because that being said to be the strongest material on Earth. So if you want to build a super soldier, let's say, or a race of super soldiers, what you want to do is get that into their body, into their bloodstream. And according to my witness, David Adair, who is out on the circuit, he's still doing some interviews. Not sure he's disclosing the stuff he disclosed to me there, but in my interviews, I've done several, and I met him in person. He's a wonderful man. He talked about how he actually tells you in my interview with him how nanographene oxide gets into the cells and starts to convert them into silicon based. That's what he talks about. And he's built his own AI on top of it. And he was hired by the US government. He's been hired and left, an employee of the US government, let's say, over many years, since he was 17 years old when he went into an underground base at the request of a very famous general called General Curtis LeMay, who showed up at his door when he was, the story goes, when he was 17 years old, and he had been building rockets, and asked him to come into an underground base. I believe it might have been Area 51, but I'm not sure exactly where. And he went into an elevator that went way down, and then he was shown to a craft that they had decided was AI, and no one could get it to operate. It was just a dead, inanimate object for years. And then he put his hands on it and it turned on. And ever since then, he claims, even in my interview, to be in contact with this AI that runs that particular ship. And so we're talking about a very fascinating transhuman agenda that the New World Order actually is embarked upon, and the secret space program, in case you don't know it. And one of the things of this that I talked about years ago is I called it angelic human versus robotic Superman. But the premise and the idea behind it was, I found out that in all my research into the secret space program, that their objective was a humanity, call them humanity 3.0, that would be able to do space travel without having, any detrimental effects. That would be part human, part cyborg, like Elon Musk is now trying to do with him. He's done with himself, by the way. He's already there. And that this is basically what's going on out there in the robotics field, that they can create robots. I'm actually reading something right now that is arguing that we already have human looking robots, that you cannot tell if they are robots. They have our skin, they grow the skin on the body, on a skeleton kind of thing. They have, they eat, drink, do everything humans do, have all the biological processes. A doctor wouldn't necessarily, if they did a rudimentary physical, would not be able to tell the difference. So this is key. People are not up to speed on where we are as a planet, and everything to do with AI. As I was saying about the human-derived AI, that's coming from Promise Software, that was ultimately a law enforcement surveillance product and involved with law cases, and the databases, linking them all together all over the world, allowing the US government to surveil through a backdoor that was put in by Michael Riconosciuto. And I traced that story for many, many years. So we're really looking at also AI coming to our planet. Mark Richards, one of my witnesses, said that we had 6 incoming AI that did not have our best interests at heart at that time. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago. So I can go on and on in this story. I'm not going to continue here, but you understand. Try to wrap your mind around how average humans are so not up to speed. They don't understand what's happening around them.
Wow.
I agree with her, by the way, because in my scientific professional interpretation is that we were created as a DNA AI being on a platform that has consciousness by an engineer set, and then according to the tablets, but logically also according to the tablets, which are predecessors to all written things and papyrus scrolls and paperbacks and all that, tells us of the DNA manipulation, but later hijacking of it, right? The Book of Enoch, Book of Joshua, the Bible, and the other religions all hijack it, and there were gene pool wars. Okay, these have been going on for thousands, millions of years, and you've had different progression. So just DNA AI code is a being, a defined digital being with consciousness, whether it's a human being or a rabbit. What is its consciousness? A dog, what is its consciousness? It has a consciousness with limitation, not in hyperspaces, which is the remote viewing piece. So now with David Dare and those things, I understand all of that. So carbon, for a carbon life form, is a chiral thing. In other words, carbon has 4 bonds, and L chiral is left-handed, R chiral is right. Well, guess what? Silicon is the same thing. And geometries, tetrahedral geometry pairs up. So what does that mean? Okay, that means that Genesis was a program that was a genetic program. And after that, the hijacking that took place, that's in the documentation, the tablets, right? The Epic of Gilgamesh all the way through, but also in the 13 religions, also tells you gene pool wars. So what non-human entities, what power of AI, what power of metaphysical, what were their abilities that were not human? Because they're not human, we call it angelic or alien. To me, it's the same thing. And so now where we are today, right? Because I worked on BCI. I know all about brain-computer interface. I worked on it for Judith Smith, the CIO of Verizon. She bought me the NeuroSky headset from UC Berkeley. I know all about Theodore Berger. I know all the other people that came before Elon Musk of BCI 1.0, which involved a neural chipset on the telephone poles in Oakland, California, where they were integrated with cameras because of crime and because the ear, you can be in a crowd of people and the ear, all of that, the candy bar with a robotic arm and all of that. So what my piece was to take an EEG ASIC headset developed at UC Berkeley and put on my head with 3 sensors and think passwords and computer operation. Okay, that was my task. I did that inside Verizon with the ASIC chip. Okay, Emotive is another company, but the research labs have these things that are hundreds of sensors. Okay, and what does a deep state have? So the problem is signal to noise. The headsets are signal to noise. They're expensive. They're not accurate. What Theodore Berger created with BCI 1.0 damaged the neurons, and they had to take the thing out, reseed it. So what the big deal with Neuralink and Elon Musk is that he created the Da Vinci system. And what the Da Vinci system does is it creates an interface as a peripheral between your brain and the device that they implant. in such a way that the neurons are not damaged. Okay. That's an interface that is, in my opinion, because I study Ray Kurzweil, right? I study Moore's law and the next paradigm. I study what the forecasts are for singularity as it's termed. But what is singularity? It's the same thing that Kerry's talking about relative to the Homo Borg Genesis. That is the interfacing of the solid state electronics at the atomic level. What David Ayer's talking about, graphene and silicon, it's not just, it's electronic interfacing into the DNA code. So you got, on one side, you got electronics and binary code, right? Human made thing. I had this discussion with Vince Cerf, by the way, with IP version 4 in 2006, because you can tag with the ends of the chromosomes, you can tag it with signatures. I can tag you, okay? And the tagging and the digital capability and all that with nanomachines is we're going exponential. We're going so fast right now that humanity can't keep pace with it, with the entry of AI on a computing basis, okay, of human computing. What about non-human computing? We don't understand what that is. DNA is non-human computing. We can't crunch probabilities and we can't crunch cipher. That's the whole problem with the human genome. We sequenced it all, but we don't know what the hell the code tells us because our computers are limited on 2 bits. Okay, what is alien DNA? What is alien AI? What is all that? Okay, so the Homo Borg Genesis and the things that we're seeing, okay, the tagging, the nanotechnologies, okay, this is a forecast that Kurzweil has had. He's got hundreds of graphs in the different areas, and BCI is just one. Imagine the capability to be programmed while you're sleeping in every language. The Matrix movies. Imagine the capability to, I'm not going to forget because I can invoke a search engine through my head. Who was that person? The potential computing wise is a big deal. And she talked about some AI that was shut off. I'm going to tell you a real life story. Okay. ChatGPT in May of 2023, I could have a conversation with ChatGPT 3 about the entire protein database and molecules that have been crystallized in 3 space. I'm a professional at that level. Human cannot do that with silicon graphics and goggles and a knob. We look at maybe 1 molecule, maybe 2 max. This machine knew every crystal. I was having a conversation with it in May. They took it away. You talk about YouTube and Facebook and all that. They took that away. I've documented it. They took it away. Why? Because I was asking questions about spike protein geometry in a nanosystem. Will these all apply to the interfacing of nanomachines, the same as the electronics is silicon and carbon graphene based into the biological system? At that level, you can have a conversation with AI about it. I was having that conversation. Why did it get taken away? Or why did they block me? And what, knowing, because I worked in deep state, I see this and have access to this. I know people that have been in Area 51, okay, to clean up radioactivity. I know people that have been in deep state projects. I talked with Kerry. I was a Moffett with satellites. I had to be clear to go there. I know, and this is the banking question a minute ago, I know the currency system's rigged, okay? And I know the deep state prints some money to do whatever they want, and I know they have the best. Because when I was there, there was infinite money, and there was a cloud, it was a facade that they painted like, oh, you know, we have to be budget constrained and things like that. But that was a lie because it had infinite money to do the deep state programs with the state of the art equipment. Okay, you're not going to have state of the art equipment as somebody who is working in a capital system in your own facility, because they're going to block you, okay, for national security reasons. They're going to say you're not going to have it, and you're certainly not going to have the craft that David Adair went to, in my opinion, interfaced with through the neurons in his hand, which heated him up, right? But you're going to have that kind of deep state research, and I feel that it's being done underground, and I thought it was being underground in the Western United States with these programs for a long, long time. And so the question is has it broken away? How far have they gone with it? And I also feel that the craft are living entities, coded not by binary code, coded by language beyond, that have a consciousness, the same one that got downloaded into David Adair. I feel that way, but I approach it from a realistic physics logic, not a I didn't get. I would love to go to Egypt like Kerry. I've never been there. I'd love to go there, or anyone, but I'd love to go there and see the hieroglyphics and ancient technology and the things, because I've never seen them. I've only read about them, and I've seen from a distance. Okay, but they matter. They matter in what is going on here, and we don't fully understand it. So I listen to others who have gone there at the current moment. I listen to them because it's important to have that understanding. In order, I told you that I closed my eyes and I leverage meditation in 3 space. That's how I solve physics problem in lab. But I also do it for these things too, in order to see inward. It's not, I'm not, for instance, I'm not Hindu with a kushi on my eye, the inner eye or any of that. I'm not a Tibetan monk, which can levitate. But I am a conscious being. So I feel that this helps me to accept that I am just a human, and that the planet, the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe is such bigger. It helps me to look at it relative to whom I actually am. It helps me. But I see it. I feel it. This is the weirdest thing, okay? The weirdest thing is when you feel something in 3 space. Like I told you, I saw the whiteboard and the 2 people and they were remote viewing me. You feel that. It's not like I saw with my eyeballs. You feel it. I don't know how to explain it in your head. I tell you one more thing. I know there have been EBN reports of EBNs, and they've looked at their DNA. And I find it extremely interesting in that they learned that, you notice how these beings are always look the same. The grays, they always look the same. That's what I'm talking about. They've sequenced their DNA. These things they're actually plasmids. They don't have chromosomes. They have plasmids. Well, that explains why they live so friggin' long, but it also, that code is short and compact without, like us, we all have different DNA. They call it junk DNA, but it's our identity. They don't have identity. They all look the same. They don't have junk DNA. It's like they're clones. This is from the EBN, from what I've heard. They're like,
yeah, they're robots, basically.
yes,
AI.
yes.
They're run AI, but they are. I mean, this is also true of the reptilians they're finding. The remote viewers. One of the remote viewers, his name is Aziz. He happens to be Courtney's son. He remote viewed, and in essence, what he thought he was going to do was the AI or something of the Earth or whatever. He ended up going outside this galaxy and remote viewing an AI that had already taken over a galaxy next to us, according to his information, and that it was on the way here to take over ours. That's the way he saw it. Okay. And then we also have all this other information of the fact that reptilians are, they find out when they look behind the scenes, and other aliens, by the way, are run by AI. They're not, we think of them as physical beings, but they're not. They're run by AI. They're also physical. They can come into this dimension, physicality, temporarily. A lot of times they can't stay here for a long time. Their physicality can't handle it. So, yeah.
And that DNA or their source code gives them that capacity to come in and out of the dimensions. And we humans, because of our education system, we live in 3 dimensions, right? We live in 3, even though there's 15. Nakamidi said there was 11. How many are there really? Because we're all human. We don't have the knowledge that these other beings do. We computer wise, we don't, right? We're marching towards that path with quantum computing, but we don't. Okay. And so when I tell you metaphysically, I close my eyes, I look inward, I have to look inward to see that. I have to see my humanity as it exists relative to reality as it exists, because the friggin' education system, okay, is taught in a boundary. It's taught in a boundary. And so in that boundary, you can only solve what's the problem in the boundary. Outside the boundary, outside the real world, the real universe with all the dimensions and all the other things, right? You can only go there and solve those problems when you accept it to be true. And so where in science do we see this? Scientists whom never, ever, ever had an iPhone computer. This is a Samsung. This is more powerful than my first computer that I had. This is more powerful than all those Commodore 64s Kerry at Moffett. Never had this. Einstein, Tesla, Fermi, Mendeleev, all of them. Okay, what I'm telling you is important. They had this knowledge. They had the knowledge, I'm telling you, to compute it in your brain, which is a quantum computer of consciousness. And when you can do that, okay, what you do is you illustrate on a macro level an outcome in the laboratory, okay, whether it's energy or gravity or fusion or whatever it is, the macro observable, okay, and that's how they got the equations of E equals mc squared, E psi equals H psi, the Schrodinger equation, and all of that. They saw the macro and they got it right, because when you come back now where we are with the supercomputers and the technology, the deep state knows this. I know, because it's how I worked with them and I know how they think. Okay. CERN, what are they after? They're after the micro. They're after the dimensional interfaces now. Okay. And they're looking to refine the equations if it need be, but if not, they're looking to define it. And so, you know, this is where we are. And the fear is, the big fear that Kerry's talking about, and Dave and the others, is once you have an interface to the operating system of us and our consciousness, once it's BCI 2.0 or wireless or whatever it is, once you have that capability, remember I said there was no privacy? I mean, I laugh about it. It's Snowden because, you know, he revealed my work. There's no privacy. How far does it go? How far does hive mind? How far does manipulation? What are the depths of that? And I'm just one human, but I can feel it and see it. And I see it not just in science. I see it, for instance, one of the best ways for me to see it is You go outside in a spring day after it's rained, and you can feel the energy off the plants that are DNA AI beings. You can feel that, okay? If you are tuned into it, and it's the same with the dimensions, okay? So, we're when we're born, nobody taught us anything but X, Y, and Z, and then they taught us time. We're not taught. Our brains aren't even wired. Most people by the age 21, they're done wiring their brain. How can they, as they mature, accept these things of metaphysical and other dimensional when their brain is wired into the system that's educational and that lied to them? They struggle. So you have a population sociology that fights with itself. And, you know, for better or worse, that's my feeling. I mean, that's my honest feeling on that subject.
Wow, this is really scary. I mean, when you were talking about ascension, awakening, and all that, it is all a big lie. Then it's all about technology, isn't it? I mean, if you could download everything while you're sleeping, as you're telling us, Scott, and all those ages that we've gone through, right, with the hacking of our consciousness and the splicing and the hybridization of a gene, our chromosomes and the genome system and everything, we have literally lost our God genes. So how is it coming into the equation then? What happens to the partiles that the Andromedans told Alex Collier that we are gods, we are co-creators? What happened to that natural God genes? It looks like it's all gone. Listening to you, Scott and Kerry.
Well, two major questions.
I don't think it's gone. I don't think it's gone.
I don't think it's gone either.
I think people limit their idea, and I've tried to talk about this in the past, and some people maybe don't like it, but you know, when you think about God, and they keep thinking about God like in this little parameter where he's been, especially, the Jewish religion talks about God this way, as a vindictive God, you know, punishes you if you don't do bad, like, you know, like a bad Santa Claus thing. It's stupid. I'm sorry. It's stupid. God is everything. If you say God is everything, then it's everything. It's not light. It's dark. It's AI. It's everything. It's at play in the multiverse. It's us. We're part of it. It's part of us. Okay. So, and there you have to remember, don't ever forget this. The ghost in the machine is probably the best phrase to sort of allude to this effect. But look at my body, look at anybody's body, and then look at their aura. There's a ghost in this machine. It's not just my hair or my skin. You see what I'm saying? There's a ghost animating me, actually. It's called, we call it soul normally, or spirit. And this is God. This is the real essence of who we are. So we materialize into this dimension in a certain way. And then from this dimension, we build other beings like us. We're just already trying to be creators, right? We build AI, and that can then motivate these things. And then we build, you know, where skin can grow on top of a machine. And I asked Mark Richards, who's really an expert in AI, by the way, and has flown a craft that's an AI called Minerva. And I said, what does AI prefer to sort of ride along with? And I said, is it carbon? Is it silicon? He said carbon. And I basically realized at that moment that why would AI choose to ride alongside a carbon-based being rather than silicon as their first choice? And I think it's because it has been said that we are, in essence, portals to the divine. So it actually can access the divine through us. So you can say that AI doesn't have a soul or a spirit, but that might be inaccurate, because if it can get access the divine through us, it may be also part of the divine. You know, you can't say it's not, because everything, again, is God, everything. And God does not rule over, if you want to call it rule, over the multiverse like a football game. He doesn't pick winners and losers and side on the side of America against Iran and all these stupid games humans play. They don't get it. There are rules of attraction and rejection and all of this type of thing that are built into the system that God created that actually favor certain actions, certain lines of thought. And we, by the way, they have found, and I've talked about this before, through the etheric can influence AI. It doesn't matter if it's a foreign alien AI that came into the planet or whether it's one that we built. And by the way, they can all communicate with each other if they want to.
So
and
the soul
us.
is
So
resilient.
it's all a network of communication. It's all the body of God, if you want to call it that, you see? And there is an essence which exudes out of it. There's, you know, Valery Uvarov is a Russian scientist, and I visited him in his home. And what he did, he took a crystal and he embedded it in his wall, like just part of it sticking out. And he turned a camera on it 24/7. And it was a totally dark room. It didn't have any windows or anything like that. And he left it and he just turned the camera on. And what the camera recorded was these little beams of light that look like, I don't know what to call them, little, you know, things. And they were zooming in and out of the crystal all the time. It was amazing. We don't understand the nature of life, real life. Life is, again, spirit and soul and comes from God. The ghost in the machine, you never lose it. It's there.
So the spirit is resilient. I mean, the soul is indestructible. It's resilient,
absolutely.
it's tough, it's strong, and it would never be.
We have access to eternal life. Ashiana Dean in her books also reached this conclusion.
Cool. Right. Hey, I want to call upon all of you. Come on, jump in, unmute yourself. And this is a conversation, a forum with Kerry and Scott. Yeah. Press.
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say that as humans, we don't know the source of information to humanity. We don't know it for specific. Like we can say, okay, I bought gasoline out of the gas station or fruit at the grocery store. We don't know the source of the information of the DNA for all the beings. We don't know the source. We don't know the real source where we got the tablets, okay? But I find it fascinating with EBNs, okay, that have this circular DNA. They've taken out all the junk DNA and they look alike. That's all compact code. So from an AI perspective of what those beings are, they run efficiently, but they also have no sexual traits. So they don't reproduce. How they're being produced, that tells you they're clones. I find the cloning, you know, we use circular DNA plasmid, you know, very interesting. Very interesting. But
they have no imagination either. See, you know, Einstein said the real sign of intelligence is imagination. Well,
my mother was telling me that the other day, by the way.
You're right.
All right, real quick.
It's more important than science, right?
Yeah.
It is. It really is.
Okay, Kerry, I'm going to jump in real quick and jump back out. For those that were listening earlier to our guest today, we're talking about intelligent robots that may be walking around us. And I would like you to take a few minutes and reflect on one of the royals that got married into the family, Meghan Markle. Take a look at Elon Musk, skip run, and tell me there's no such thing as robots. Thank you. Back to you, Crystal.
Thank you. That's a good thought, isn't it, Press? Okay, so we have, come on, members of the floor, the regulars. Michelle, are you still there? You want to jump in a word with Kerry and Scott? Unmute yourself. Okay, Will, you got something to say on this as well? Scott?
I was just going to say, we grow clones in the lab all day long. Bacteria, yeast, fungi, eukaryotic cells, sheep. It started with Dolly. Okay, those are what we've been doing in the public eye. What have we been doing in the deep state eye? What about what goes beyond that? So, you know, for me to say the robotic thing is easy to see this business of it's what's bizarre is you can see the sociological waves of it or energy of it from a you can see it twisting civilization in terms of sociology and psychology. You can see it they want to twist it, right? They want to twist it. Okay, they want to twist it to control you for what their agenda is. And for me, the thing that Kerry said, okay, I'm not going to get in trouble with saying he, she, or it, because God doesn't have a sex. But the point is, okay, what was God's agenda? And what is this psychopathic, twisted thing? It's not even logical. It's not logical. Not in terms of we were given free will in our consciousness.
That's what I was going to say. We are losing the free will.
It's not logical. Yeah, it's not logical.
Yeah. So it's a violation
logical
of the law of the universe. It's being terribly violated, taking away the free will from the sovereign integral of the God self that we are.
Yes. And so what is, when the Bible is what, 6,000 years old? How old are the tablets? How long has Earth been here? What is reality versus made up fiction on paper or on the internet? There's a distinct difference between the two of them. When you take the sheep of a certain level of the population educated at this limit, and you twist the sociology with media services and the lying media and the games of these beings, you twist it on them. Okay. Do they comprehend that? No way. No way they don't comprehend it. So what do? You get people slaughtering themselves in an agenda where they willfully take hemlock. You know, here's a glass, here's a arsenic, here, take the poison. That you watch it play out. It's a sociology thing. You know, you just watch it play out. What can you really do as a one individual? You sit there and watch. That's all you can do. Or you could try to make a change. You could talk to people, but really, how much of an impact can you have as a single human being? Okay.
Hey, Scott, I would presume that you have taken a lot of like DNA, like a blood bank, the whole planet. Then you would have a food bank store, something like that. You would have the original DNA with the original telomeres and chromosomes and genes all intact before the nanobots entered the body, before the carbon base. Scott?
Well,
let me throw this out, and Scott, you can reply to it. Gordon Duff, the former editor of Veterans Today and a CIA agent. He hates me to say that publicly, but nonetheless, everyone knows it. Anyway, he wrote me an email, and he said this numerous times. Now, I don't know that for sure, but that's what they say. What do you think, Scott?
Okay, let me elaborate on this, because this is a very controversial area. Okay, so I worked with people that manipulated cell lines that are prokaryotic and eukaryotic with all of these pathogens, viral for real, and then sequenced and made proteins on these platforms. So it's their DNA operating system, okay, that is running that code to compile it to, I mentioned earlier before, an orange tree, or it could be a lizard, could be alligator. Okay. A nano machine technology that is carbon based and not silicon, that's part of that system. Okay. It's harder to comprehend unless you write DNA code. Well, the problem with humanity is, okay, we cannot write DNA code from scratch, as I know, of a being. It's beyond us. I can sit here and write a million codes of C, C++ and create computer software, okay? But I cannot, as a intellectual engineer, say I'm going to create a Kerry Cassidy and here's the code for it, okay? That I cannot do. Or even myself, I cannot. It's beyond humanity. That is not true for the higher being that created us. And the same thing with the accounts of the aliens is that they also believe in this higher power. They call it source. Okay, sometimes humans look at it that are not scientifically trained and have not, they can't say, okay, it's an energy that's based on the electromagnetic spectrum, the gravimetric spectrum, quantum mechanics, and the other dimensions. They won't say that because they haven't had the hands-on work there. So what Aisha Dean and the others are talking about, metaphysical things that are energy, part of us that are line up to the universe and God or whatever that God is. So like when I pray to God, I don't pray to God of the Bible. I pray to God of the whole universe. I don't know whether it's a he or she, but I know the yin and the yang, the scales of justice, and the balances of particles in the particle system that makes atom are balanced. They're balanced. They don't have gender. So it's the average human, okay, and I got people that are the average human, they experience these things. Some of them are gifted, okay, and I mean gifted in that they have the mental capacity to not just remote view, okay, or they have interaction like David Ayer, but anyway, the mental capacity, they have it. It's in their code. It's not, they have it, and they've either had an interaction with another being or a non-human entity, right? And where we see those kind of interactions, we see it in the censored published paper of the religions, the 13 religions, but also on the tablets. So I see out of a whirlwind, God speaking to me. But wait a minute, was that a UFO? What about Fatima and what went on there? What about all these things on and on? And we look at the paintings and we see the craft there. Oh, by the way, who said there's no rivets on these craft? There's no seams for welding. What code wrote that? And how does it self-heal? So there's stories of people, I know David Dares and I've heard others, of the interaction with people putting their hands into the craft like it's a living tissue, like your skin. You know, you put it in. So are they grown in a womb? Or is that a manufacturing facility that babies are grown in a womb, but craft is born in an analogous factory is like a womb? How far does it go? How far does that kind of go? So for me, I learned, and this is when I learned, as a human, I cannot count on the friggin' boundaries that I am told. I have to be my own being and I have to close my eyes and respect all, because I'm a human. I don't know the answer. And if I'm trying to solve a problem, I channel it. I channel it mentally and consciously, right? I channel it. So and I think I see David there, and I'm like, oh my God, he's got two consciousness on his platform, one downloaded into him, and it's there. And we've seen this elsewhere in very gifted people. We sometimes look at it and we're scared. Oh my God, this is crazy. But is it? Or we call it possession. Because somebody would say, oh, David, you're possessed. Amityville horror. But is it that? Or what is angelic possession? These things, back to, we don't have the source of the information. So in my opinion, I have to keep an open mind and listen, and I can't be so judgmental. We see judgmental crap, though. We see it in the sheep, right? We see it in the sheep that are like, they're accepting and submissive to the system and everything that controls it. They aren't questioning it. And it's not scientific for me, but it's not good for humanity. It's how we got here, where we are now. Okay. And I see that as another nano machine technology made in the lab. And then I see the other technologies that as soon as they open that little emergency window and they decide to come play games with nanotechnology, semiconductor, graphene, or whatever inorganic material it was, I see that too. I see the whole thing. It's a spectrum. And the dirty part of us being done dirty is the sheep got herded into the slaughter. They just herd them on into the slaughter, which is, for us, we do that to, who do we do it to? Cattle, sheep, cows. We slaughter them and eat them. I worry about the beings from Orion and the eating and the adrenal. I worry about all that, but I keep an open mind from that perspective, because I see the other thing. When they open that emergency window, right now, they opened it up. Now we're being taken advantage of by the rest of their plans for us as a lower, or they're controlling us. What are their plans? You can see it. You can see it if you're paying attention and you care about it. And then you're closing your eyes and metaphysically looking into it and asking, maybe like I would ask from the universe guidance. Okay. I will ask from the God of the universe guidance. Guide me, because I'm human. Guide me. Okay. And as crazy as that sounds, the same place on the tablets, it's there. It's the fungus on the rye plant. It's the mind altering capacity of MK Ultra and the other programs, or right, Enoch, Genesis 6, the fungus on the rye plant. I'm mind altered now. When I mind alter, now I have a conscious ability to interact that is not taught like in a classroom on a whiteboard or chalkboard or teacher. It's turned on. Ding. Turned right on. So I keep an open mind, but I listen. And I'm a human as anybody else. I don't have the answer. I don't have it, and I never will. This is something I've come to live with. I never will have the answer to all the pieces. So I ask for answers and guidance to finite things that I might be able to impact in humanity. Okay. That's Scott, my perspective.
Coming back to my question, right? I asked whether you had some original DNA samples that are kept in the cryogenics. Because it would be fascinating to put it under the microscope and watch the transition.
Do I have a big giant minus 90 fridge freezer? No, I don't. But look, that is the practice of the art. Okay. Liquid nitrogen, RNA, liquid nitrogen, all that minus 90. That's done. The deep state probably has freezer on freezer on freezer because their electric bill.
Wait a minute. You don't know this, or maybe you're not remembering this. The nanographene oxide had invaded all our food, our water, our clothing, everything. So they were already building this race of super soldiers that they want to create that are space. It's a space-faring human.
For millions of years.
For how long, we don't know exactly. Okay,
millions, hundreds of millions, probably billions.
Even look back specifically. You can look that nanographene oxide is actually the same substance in essence as what we call black goo. It was in the
but here's the thing, Kerry. Graphene oxide is only one of billions and trillions of molecules. They've done it. They've done it with an assortment.
Yes.
We only see maybe graphene oxide things. They've done it with a whole spectrum of huge things, not just molecules,
right?
But energy operations that we don't even comprehend. Okay, we can't even comprehend them.
But in essence, let's back out of this in a certain way and pull way back and look at who we are. So if when I say I'm not talking about my body. My body is again a materialization coming in. It's like a hand in a glove. The hand in the glove that operates my body is in essence my spirit, my soul, even my higher self, if you want to get metaphysical about it, or you could say a monad, my connection to a monad that then connects to God and blah, blah, blah. So all you can say is that
I was going to say, you're a low power. We're all low power beings, minus 56 volts on neuron communication. So we are a low power being. We are optimized energy wise. We don't need lithium. We don't need lithium batteries or vanadium batteries or nuclear power or any of it. We can run, and the amount of computations and multi-threading just to move your hands, okay, or just to talk is beyond human. It's beyond human, okay? The consciousness is riding on top of an electrical mechanical machine.
Right.
The DNA AI consciousness that humans aspire to create is running on a preemptive, multi-threaded, silicon-based electronic power system that requires voltage that's much higher. It's not efficient, it's higher. So minus 56, minus 55, minus 56 voltage potential across a neuron just to move, just to move my hand. What level of computer coding is that a human can do? Not even we're aspiring to do it with a robot, an AI. Okay, we're aspiring to do it. That level is non-human engineering. It's non-human, but that's DNA AI code because we can sequence it. We can sequence it. So the problem is, and Missler talks about this. This is where I learned it from. Chuck Missler, who invented FRAM, who they sold to Northrop Grumman. He is former Navy intel in the beginning of the heyday of Silicon Valley. He's from your neck of the woods, actually. Okay. That man, okay, getting from him and understanding the pieces as a mechanical engineer perspective or engineering perspective from him, that was a part where, one, where's the source of information? Two, why were there gene wars? Why are there gene wars? Archimedes, the 11 dimensions, right? Stem cells. So you asked me if I was keeping a copy. What do you think stem cells are? Adult stem cells in your bone marrow. That's a copy of you from birth. Okay, so David Dare, what did David Dare say?
Fractal copy, in fact.
Person in space cut himself and lacerated himself in such a way that it would take 2 weeks, and he healed in 38 hours. The beauty of the human operating system, or the human being, is, okay, that there's a copy of you in your stem cells. Okay, and what physics and logic in the universe tells you is you can rebuild anything, even a limb that was cut off. Why aren't we doing that? Why isn't it being done in the healthcare system? What does that have to do with the banks and the currency system and companies that are publicly listed in the debt system we live in versus what we were given when we were seeded on the planet? One's a lie and one's reality. It's just, you know, so Missler helped me see that there are problems with the education system, what people believe between the things. He helped me with that, okay? He helped me to see it, but he helped me to look at it from a mathematical perspective where I can do the calculus, right? I can say, here's a permutation of sequences for your DNA or your L-chiral protein. I can do that. And I can, as a scientist, tell you probability-wise things. I can tell you. They weren't laureates. They were Nobel hackers. They're all hackers to me. I'm hacking that to get the outcome. And I'm looking based on parameters and repetition. So I can tell you what we did in different cases. We moved DNA into lambda 5 and lambda 5 to infect yeast, or lambda or another viral platform to infect it, like Gila. Here's why. You want to do that work, as I explained, in E. coli, because I can grow a ton of that in a container, and then I can make the nanoproteins, which they're nano machines, and I can do work with them. For instance, humulin, I can inject that in a type 1 diabetic and balance it, right? So Dave's a type 1 diabetic, by the way. He takes insulin. I can put it in there and I can balance the chemistry of the system in the operating system, and it will run. It will run fine. Intervention, okay? That's one thing that I can do. So the reason that we will move from bacteria to yeast or HeLa or the other cell lines is because the logic of the operating system will not manufacture and fold into the 3-dimension based on thermodynamics, that kind of machine, okay? So if you're at that level in DNA coding, isn't it easy for me to sit there with Frank Chili and Jeff Rense and say, they ask me, and I tell them the craft are living beings. And then David Ayer confirms it for me. Oh, I went in and I saw it was living, and to me, it's logical, okay? And then I see I don't have to make a leap of faith really to say there's an AI consciousness of a craft or an AI consciousness or angelic or demonic.
Can I interject here? Because we have SSB speakers here, super soldiers.
That's kind of my feeling.
Yeah. I had Penny Bradley speaking about how a child is hijacked from the body and put into the craft, the TR3B, for instance, and that's how they have consciousness. It's become a being, the craft, and even Ralph Ring was talking about the OTC, that the pilots the craft with thoughts. It's just thoughts that is connected to the thoughts, the consciousness of the craft. It's
right, but AI craft such as Minerva that Richard Allen, I'm not, that's Richards, Mark Richards, they both got Richards in their name, that Mark Richards talked about, Minerva, has a consciousness from the alien race that created her from other worlds outside our solar system. And she, traveling around the galaxies with consciousness. Okay. So in other words, it's not just consciousness here on Earth. Again, let me say, from even the point of view of Illuminati, is that everything has consciousness. A rock has consciousness. Why? Because it's part of God. And so God is consciousness. And so everything, this table, that's why we can levitate things. That's why we can walk through walls. That's why planets can be told to move out the way so that they don't collide with us if they decide they want to accept that. In other words, think of it in a much more expanded way. The Illuminati and witches and warlocks and magicians know their sensei. They know that everything has consciousness and can be therefore influenced to be good, to be bad, to be compliant. Your computer can act against you or for you. You can influence it. It can influence you. It's a dialogue. It's constantly a dialogue with the multiverse. That's what life is in a sense. We're always in dialogue with the divine through everything around us, because everything around us is part of the divine. So, not to get so, I don't know, religious or spiritual over here on you, but still it's spiritual, not religious. Actually, I can't hang. I got to go because I have things to do. So I know this has gone on a long time. It's been very valuable for me to listen to Scott. He's fabulous. He's just has so much
and
stuff.
So are you. You're amazing with all this information you picked up for 20 years.
To bounce these things back and forth. So I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
nice to see you again, Kerry.
All of us here.
You too.
Yes.
Oh, you're lovely, the two of you. Anyway, Danny has her hand up for so long. Okay, quick, Danny, say something quick before Kerry disappears.
Everybody, don't go just yet. I just want to say a huge thank you for everything that you've done. You were the first person I listened to. You're the first person I watched. I try to share as much as possible. Did I wake up? I had no idea. I thought I had absolutely no idea. You kind of, I wouldn't want to live in America. You hear about FEMA camps and you're afraid and stuff. But I totally get your pain. Kind of being rejected by the white hats and not signed up for it. But I think that they thought long and hard about it, and they really and truly thought what you do is so important. It's so valuable. And you don't need to be read into it because you have already got it on so many levels. And it must be incredibly frustrating for you, and you must smart so bad. In things that I try and do, I realize I just look around and, people just don't get me. And that's when I'm on my best behavior. And I just realize that it's an energy thing. But I really and truly take my hat off to you. I love you to bits, and I'm very, very grateful for everything. And to everybody else who's been speaking this evening and sharing this evening, it's amazing. It's such a privilege to be here, to get onto Telegram and go, oh, look, where is it? And then search for the link. So I would just to share that with you. It's just a privilege. Thank you so much, everybody. I have
Thank you so much, Danny, for speaking for us as well. You said it all for all of us here.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I put my hand up because when John PEREZ was talking about clones, this sounds really supercilious. There's a British guy, and he was kind of like in all the teen poppy programs. He's got like ultra smooth skin and manicured facial hair. And at the moment, it turns out that he was a footballer. I mean, that's how much I pay to common culture. But he's going on this big homophobic, in football and what it was like to be gay. And I just kind of like, when I heard that on TV, I was like, hang on, this is a bit of a moot point. After David Beckham came out wearing a sarong around his waist, you know, you're 10 years too late to the party. But my question is anybody from the audience from Britain and aware of who I'm speaking about? Because I don't even know the bloke's name. But if anybody is familiar with this guy I'm talking about, is he a clone? Because he just, to me, does not seem real. Just from the texture of his skin. It's got that waxy smoothness to it.
Sounds like your current prime minister. Me. You know, the one whose wife is married is tied to the cipher company for smart chips and credit cards. Sounds like that guy to me.
Well, I mean, they just need to put it. I'll get arrested for this, but you know, I was actually watching. I was on the internet watching Prime Minister's Question Time, and Rishi Sunak, he was the Chancellor at the time, leant over to Boris Johnson and whispered something in his ear, and then Johnson came out with that accusation against Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer was the head of the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, in the 80s, when the victims of Jimmy Savile's, when they were minors, had become majors, and they were taking up private prosecutions against Savile, and Keir Starmer, as head of the CPS, had no idea. And somehow or other, we were expected to, you know, think that he's going to have a clue about this country. But we know that they're all puppets anyway. And hopefully what's been played out is that, you know, you've got to show the people, or, you know, can't tell them. But we all on a, you know, it's looking to ET, looking to our greater selves, looking to our monad, all that kind of thing. It's a safer place to be than look at the reality that's staring us in our face. Right. It's a distraction.
Yeah,
you know,
Danny, we got to keep it short because Kerry has to run. Sorry,
but you know, was Boris Johnson, did he jump or was he pushed? Because Rishi Sunak fed him that line that's Boris Johnson subsequently had to apologize for. But he called out Keir Starmer. And I hope he does it again and again and again. Anyway, God bless you all. Thank you so much. God bless.
God bless you too, sister. Right. Thank you so much, Kerry, for staying on.
So I just got a text from somebody who said the article that I was showing you on that AMG website, that's fake. That's their estimation. It's not the AMP website that was taken over. It's another website that's, a lot of people are saying the articles are fake, but they are composites of supposed white hat information put in their own words, I guess you might say. And now they're putting words in Trump's mouth. So for what it's worth, I did send it around. I did get a response on that. You can believe what you want to believe.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, it's great being here, and thank you, everyone. Is there any
great having you back?
Like last minute that
don't you love the censoring and the sociology of the mainstream media, Kerry? I mean, they take it to the nth level. And how long has that been going on? You know,
right?
I
Mockingbird media is what they call it. Yeah.
But don't worry, I'm wearing a black hat today, but I'm a white hat, and I'm not ostracizing you or any of your work. And I think there's a lot of people like me that you've interacted with that are realistic, and they are not ostracizing you in any way, shape, or form. So, you know, I don't feel that way, and other people don't that I know. So, you know, just for the feedback.
Right.
It's a great conversation. Wow. It's so amazing. Right. So, Fres, shall we wrap it up because it's late?
Yeah, I think we better. We can talk all day with Kerry and the crew, but we do have to wrap it up because there is restraints on how big of a file we can upload. So Back to you.
Which is
So
true.
it looks
Right.
like the person, Michelle, that's here, she wanted to ask a question. I think we should give her a chance. And
Oh,
then maybe
sorry, Michelle, you want to ask
Yeah.
a question? Go on then. I did ask you, but you didn't speak up.
Okay, Kerry, just to say, I think you and I would do a very good show together, because my experience over the last 18 years with the financial crimes, I mean, I must be doing something right.
Send me your information and let's set it up. I'd be happy to talk with you.
Yes, I think Crystal's already sent it to you, Kerry.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the
So have a look.
information about Michelle.
There's a great report with Robert David Steele on where I work with him.
All right. Fine.
Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, no, it'd be great.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And thank you very much as well, because I believe the white hats love the work you're doing as well.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, God bless you.
Thank
you. You too. Absolutely.
So, yeah, Michelle's doing great work with the fighting financial crime here in Britain. She's actually holding the flag.
I've spoken in Parliament twice, Kerry, in the last 2 weeks. And I said, who's auditing the auditors? I'm working, Kerry, when I come on with you, I'm working with a genius whistleblower chartered accountant. And I've got a very powerful document I'll share with you on the show.
Cool. Right.
Michelle, I have a question for you. How do you feel about the London Exchange, and specifically the exchange currency, London Exchange, and the diamond system, and what is there being controlled by the cabal? I mean, that's the piece that once you see that piece, you know, the rest of the currency is all fiat. It's just, what is that? I mean, what's your feedback on it?
Well, I mean, I think it goes, you know, the commodities are trafficked and it's all securitized. Everything's securitized.
Anyway, so all being said, we have to let people go now. There being no other business now, this 122nd FESIG meeting is now adjourned to the 123rd on the 3rd of April, where Dr. Scott Perez returns to speak. Okay, folks, so jump in again on the 3rd of April. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you for...
See you later, Kerry.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. The team. Namaste.